Awesome. Thank you all again so much for joining us. We are so excited to have you here for our last program of North Carolina Countdown to College Education Professionals Month. We've had a month long of really wonderful programs, and we are capping off the month this week being Special Topic Week. So today we have a wonderful panel of experts, and we are going to be talking about how to create and foster community involvement with Countdown to College. So a great conversation. We have some folks on to talk about their schools, their organizations, how they work together and have success, especially as it relates to all the things that are part of Countdown to College. So admission, financial aid, FAFSA, residency, all of those great things. We are recording this presentation today. If you have any questions, please note that you have a chat feature as well as a Q&A. And we would love to hear anything you have going on. All right, so let's talk about all the wonderful folks that we have with us today. We have Michelle Sims. She is with Guilford County Schools. She is the supervisor of high school counseling. Welcome, Michelle. Also on our panel, we have Brandy Kennedy. She's with Shift Ed. Brandy is the director of secondary and post-secondary programs. We have Molly Riddle. She's with the College Advising Corps over at App State in the Mountains. And then we have our own Devin McCarthy-James. So she is one of the regional representatives with CFNC over in the mountains as well. And her background is in school counseling. And then I'm your facilitator, I'm April Cleary. I am with CFNC. I am over outreach for our state. So once again, if you have questions, let us know. And we thank all of our wonderful panelists for joining us today for this final very, very important program. So I'm going to take just a couple minutes and make sure we're all on the same page with who we are. And we'll only be keeping you guys for 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll be passing it along. Okay. All right. So CFNC, College Foundation of North Carolina, we are the state-based nonprofit that is here and put here in the legislature. And we offer lots of free information on college and career readiness, college applications, financial aid, financial literacy, and all those great things. There is no building that houses CFNC. We are an online resource, virtual resource, and we are human capital. And so there's lots of different folks that have come together in North Carolina to offer these resources. We were the first state in the country to have something like CFNC. We were the first state in the country to have something like College Application Week and Countdown to College. So we're really proud of being the first of these different resources and endeavors. And then we have our wonderful regional folks that are kind of our boots on the ground. 7 regional reps, that includes Devin, as well as 2 wonderful Spanish service reps who cover the whole state. So this is our homepage of the website. If you haven't looked in a while, we encourage you to go take a look. Make sure you have your account, browse around so you know what your students are seeing. And just a quick reminder that as we get closer to College Application Week, it is sneaking up on us, the week of October 16th through the 20th. Please remember that students need to start on cfnc.org. Here is a screenshot of all of our amazing reps, as well as our statewide Spanish service folks, Juana and Juanes, and we will email you this presentation, and if you want the PowerPoint, you can do that also, so you'll have this to reach out to everyone. All right, we are going to dig in just a little bit here now with the main part here. We're just going to we'll go through the same order that I introduced folks. So we'll start with Michelle, move to Brandy, and Molly and Devin. And if you guys could just take a couple minutes and introduce yourselves in your role to everyone. So we'll kick it off with Michelle.
Greetings, everyone, and happy terrific Thursday. My name is Michelle Sims. I am the proud Guilford County Schools High School Counseling Supervisor, and I am excited to be here today. I started as the High School Counseling Supervisor back in October 2020, so I'm coming up on my year shortly here because October is approaching soon, so I'll be coming up on my year's time frame in this position. Before that, I was the counselor at Page High School for about 12 years. And then I was a counselor for 1 year also at the middle college at GTCC Greensboro as well. So I have been around with this particular district for a while, and I do strongly believe that we are a great district. And again, if you see our slogan in the back, I'll move over just a little bit. You see that it says better together. So I'm glad to be on here to partner with CFNC because again, we are better together. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Michelle. Let's move over to Brandy Kennedy with Shift Ed.
Hello, everyone. It is good to see you all today. I'm excited to see some new faces, but also some familiar faces, former colleagues, and everything on the call. So, again, I'm Brandy Kennedy, and I serve as the Director of Secondary and Post-Secondary Programs with Shift Ed. And that is a lot of alphabet soup for I oversee our high school and college programs. So, I help students across the county as they transition and think about their next steps. Prior to this, I had the opportunity to serve as a college advisor with the College Advising Corps, who is also represented on this call. So looking forward to sharing how we best collaborate and serve our students across the state.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandy. We are going to come over to Molly Riddle now.
Hi everyone, I'm Molly O'Donnell. I actually just changed my name, just got married, so that's really exciting. But I am the Assistant Program Director for the Appalachian College Advising Corps. We're based out of Boone. We serve most of Western North Carolina, minus like 2 counties, I think now, so we've grown quite a bit. Right before taking this role, I was an advisor for 2 years at Mitchell High School in Bakersville, North Carolina. From 2020 to 2022, and it was like one of the best experiences of my life. I just loved the kids, loved working in a public school, loved the program, loved it way too much to leave. So I became assistant program director a little over a year ago, and have really loved being in this role and getting to work with all of our awesome schools.
Perfect. Thank you, Molly. And so we have Devin.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Devin McCarthy James. I am the CFNC regional representative based in Asheville. So I cover the 11 Western counties. So I travel around and try and support students, families, and the educators and the community partners that work so hard to also support students and families. My background, as I mentioned, is in high schools. I was actually a high school teacher and then a high school counselor. And now being a CFNC regional rep, it's just been wonderful to see all the different ways that different communities really encourage college and career planning and access. And it's really opened my eyes to so many possibilities. So I'm really excited to be here on this panel to kind of share some of the things that I've done, but also some of the things that I've seen amazing partners do.
You so much, Devin. I think that our panelists are just going to have some really fun things to share. So let's start with question 1, and we will start with Michelle, if that's okay. So in thinking about your biggest success, okay, in regards to college, career, financial aid, all those things, initiatives, working with the community partners, what do you think are one of the biggest successes that you've had that you can share with the group today?
Okay, so the biggest success that I've had in regards to college and career initiatives and working with our community partners, one of the community partners that we work with is GTCC. GTCC has what we call a partnership with Guilford County Schools called Career and College Promise. With that respective program, what it allows is for our juniors and seniors to go over to GTCC, whether it be in Jamestown or Greensboro, and take college courses on campus. So when the students do go over and take college courses on campus, if those courses are 3 credit hours or more, they can get high school credit for that. And that is weighted GPA in our APIB GPA range. So the students are able to get extra points toward their GPA. A lot of times, the students that go over there, sometimes they, do a whole day or they're full-time over at GTCC. So they're able to get to see, what college life is like before they actually even take foot on a campus as a actual undergrad student. And so being able to work with that partnership and have formed that partnership, I see that is a success for our students. And we see that a lot of our students do take advantage of that program. Started last year in the spring, we did offer to pay both fees and books, for our students. So we took care of fees and books for them last spring. And we're also doing that this year as well for our students in the fall and spring. We're going to pay fees and books for them as well. And of course, the students do have to provide their own transportation to GTCC, but we do see a lot of success with that respective program.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So same question on over to Brandy Kennedy with Shift Ed. So what is a success that you have had community, partnering with your schools?
Yes, so thank you, April. I would say that it's been amazing to work and partner with Guilford County Schools. Michelle, thank you and your team for the way that you all have partnered. I would say that some of the biggest successes that we've had are coming together and ensuring that we're collaborating to best serve our population. So really that effective communication. And one of the ways that we saw that we were having challenges in the past were duplicating efforts. And so one of the ways that we try to combat that is by effectively communicating continuously throughout the year to ensure that we're working together and not competing against one another, because again, all of our missions are similar and our goals are similar. So that has been some of the biggest successes that I've seen. And also meeting students where they are. We know that the pandemic, we all were working in education space in that time, and we know how it shifted not only students and their ideas about what will be next after high school, but also just thinking about like how we serve students. Are we doing virtual events? Are we doing in person? So continuing that effective open line of communication to ensure we're partnering in the best way, but that we're also serving students in the best way.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And as you guys kind of are offering, that good bits of knowledge there, we're throwing it over in the chat. So we've got the CCP and the Community College Connection as a local resource that Michelle talked about. And then we've got, continuous effective communication and to meet students where they are from Brandy. So we're going to come over and the same question to Molly O'Donnell, and I'm going to make sure that gets fixed on the slide before the PowerPoint and everything goes out. Same question. So what is the success you can think of in working with schools and being in a community organization and all that?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And don't worry about the last name. It was literally like a week ago that this changed. So I would say a big success for our program, most of our schools that we work in, it's the student to council ratio is about 500 to 1-ish or something. And one thing that we've noticed that our advisors do have the capacity to do, and so we push really hard, is family engagement. So, that's it's one of their KPIs. So it's something, their key performance indicators. We're measuring it all year. How many families did you actively engage with about, this student's next steps? But I will say that App State as a program, so the College Advising Corps is a national nonprofit. It's all over the United States. But we are continuously one of the programs that has the highest parent engagement across the entire country. And it's because we push it so hard. So, I was a first generation college student, and I just think my parents would have benefited so much from one phone call home to just say like, hey, I'm the college advisor. This is who I am. This is what I'm here for. If you have questions, I am full of resources for your student. So we've just really encouraged our advisors, and we do lots of training with our advisors around calling home and what those phone calls can look like. And we have lots of advisors that are very intimidated by that process because it is intimidating. So we try to make sure that they feel as supported as possible. But I think it's made a huge difference in our schools. And I also think it's really helped our program become, one, a lot more established in Western North Carolina because we are fairly new. And I also think it's really made that advisor that's moved to that community a part of that community in a whole different way. Not only do they know their students, but then they go to the grocery store and they know these parents and they know these families, and they become very known, even though they're just there for 2 years. So that to me, and I think to our program director, Gloria, just felt really like, it takes a village. So we have to include everyone that we possibly can. So I think for our program, that's been a huge success.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to put some stuff over in the chat from what Molly's talking about. I was busy taking notes. Same question over to Devin.
Yeah, I love what everybody has been talking about so far. This is the kind of stuff that gets me really excited. But a couple of things, like I love what Brandy said about that year-round communication. I know we spend a lot of time in North Carolina, surrounding countdown to college month, right? Like October, and there's a lot of focus there. But I do feel like October can be a lot easier if you've got sort of laid the groundwork, right, the rest of the year. In particular, we have a school out here that has started doing something pretty cool in the last few years where they actually take their juniors in second semester and they call it a junior focus day, and they make it a mini conference for students. So the students have choice, which always gets them way more invested, right? Because they get to pick the sessions that they want with the community partners that are offering those. So of course the counselors do some, I go in and talk about stuff, but they also have military folks come in. They have, just local businesses come out and offer sessions about various topics, either about what they do or just helping the students, with whatever they need or whatever those people think they need. And so there's just so much engagement, and that program has grown and grown, and more community partners are wanting to be part of it because there's a buzz around it, right? And so those community partners that are involved in the spring are sort of already excited to be involved in the next fall, right? So it's a great way to kind of build that momentum so that it takes a little bit of the pressure off finding everybody like when we get back to school in September, right? So that's been really fun to watch kind of how that program has grown and really started connecting that community.
That is a lot of fun. Gosh, these are things that I think we all wish we could have attended as juniors too. Thank you so much, Devin. So we are going to come back over to Michelle, and we are going to talk about question number 2. And those of you that are on and listening, if you have other best practices that you're like, oh gosh, I bet everyone would love to hear about that, send it over in the chat. We do this all the time, and we always get new ideas, so send it over, send questions over. Let's move over to question 2 for Michelle. What has been a challenge in involving multiple partners or stakeholders in school-based activities and initiatives?
So a challenge that I've seen when you try to involve multiple partners or stakeholders in your school-based initiatives is that time piece. How do we have enough time to kind of, take time to collaborate and to communicate? I will say that, Brandy and we have done a great job with that, but it is a lot of scheduling. So when we get off one meeting, we'll go ahead and schedule for the next meeting and hold placeholders on our calendars to be able to say, this is the time that we're going to, meet each month or however often you decide that you want to meet. But time is something that, a lot of people have lots of different meetings going on, and then also just figuring out a time in the afternoon when you can actually go back and have these events or host these events and not conflict with other individual schedules, and then making sure you don't interfere with, there's board meeting nights here in Guilford County Schools that you're not interfering with, other events that may be going on throughout the community. So I think just really that time piece is something that has been a challenge, and I know it will continue to be, but I think, if you build those relationships and you collaborate with your partners, we definitely say we can work together and we can overcome that respective challenge.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Michelle. And that's so true. So we can't do it all. We can't be everywhere, but we work with our community partners, we can get, more stuff done. So speaking of that, Brandy, with Shift Ed, same question. So what's been a challenge you've experienced, trying to involve partners or stakeholders in all the school activities?
Yeah, so as Echo and Michelle, one of the challenges that we faced in addition to Tom has just been capacity. So I know our team at Shift Ed is very small and mighty, but growing. And so with that being said, the way in which we've pivoted and handled that challenge, as Michelle has mentioned, has been that effective communication, but also dividing and conquering. There are plenty of times where Tequila, who's our regional rep here in this area, and Juanez and myself and Michelle, we are all requested at an event, but we talk about, okay, well, how can we divide and conquer? And, Tequila, maybe you go over here to Western Guilford and I'll go over to the school in High Point so that we can ensure that the entire community is being served. And so I say not only like considering capacity, but still effective communication. And when we face those challenges, how do we pivot and how do we still ensure that our entire community is served?
I love that. Thank you so much, Brandy. The pivot. We all have to be super, super flexible and willing to pivot. So same question over to Molly. A challenge, and if you have an idea of how you were able to overcome it or work with it, on your side.
Awesome. Yeah, I would say one challenge that our advisors really run into, especially in the beginning of the year, is just making sure that when they are collaborating with a lot of people, that toes aren't getting stepped on, and then it doesn't feel like we're coming in to take over this thing that maybe you've been working on for years. So like, for example, we have 3 brand new school partners this year that we're so excited about. They have been operating with these, they've been operating on their own for a really long time, and they have created these really, really amazing programs for their kids around going to college. And they have these events already planned. And so sometimes it can be kind of hard for the college advisor to come in, and we don't want these people to feel like, they're here now and all this work you've done, they're just going to change everything and redo these processes. And it's, no longer looks like this event that you've worked so hard on. So we just have to have lots of communication. And, a lot of our advisors are brand new professionals. So we have a lot of conversations around, just how to have these conversations, these hard conversations with your school partner about like, hey, I'm not trying to take anything from you. I'm here to learn, and I'm here for the same reason. I'm here to help the kids with their next steps. Like, we want to make sure that every kid feels, supported and excited about what they're going to do next. And I think ultimately, like, just being able to sit down together and have those conversations about, who is going to take what role and in what way, has made that a lot easier. But it just really, in a lot of cases for us, came down to being very intentional about setting these meetings before we go into these events around, like, how is the college advisor going to come into this and really take some of the load from you, but not, redo everything that you've worked so hard on. So that's been a big challenge for us, but our advisors have navigated it really beautifully, and our school partners are like so receptive to letting us come in and help.
Awesome. Thank you, Molly. And same question on over to Devin. So a challenge that you have experienced working with schools and partners and such.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I want to piggyback sort of on what Molly said. It's sometimes like a complicated dance, right? Of, because you have to understand the structure, the hierarchy of the school, and the existing things that are already there. But at the same time, I love the idea that, having an additional person, right? Sometimes it takes a village, and if that village can grow, even better, to help wrangle those things that traditionally maybe you have been under-resourced to accomplish, right? One thing that I've found in my own experience when I worked in K through 12 is that sometimes there was even sort of resources internally within the school that just weren't maximized, right? So sometimes, like, the counseling department and like the CTE department, which seem to go hand in hand, don't always collaborate, right? And I think there's a lot of potential for getting those, community partners, especially those business partners who can kind of talk to students about like the real world and what happens next and all that stuff. I think there's a lot of mentorship and just so much potential in bringing together the whole in-school partnership to see what outside partners each of them has, to kind of take advantage of that. And then the other thing that I found is just sheer logistics, right? Like, it's communication, yes, but like, especially if you're holding an event on a big day, maybe a college application week event or something else, some of those partners coming into the school may have not been in the school. They may not know how to sign in. So even having the staff to manage some of the day of while you're dealing with the actual program, it just does take a lot of planning, foresight ahead of time, and communication with a lot of folks to make those things happen. So I know that these programs can be really, really rewarding, but obviously there's a lot of moving parts, and that can be really challenging.
That is so true, Devin. Thank you so much for that So once again, we're going to move on to question 3, and I want to remind folks that you can put some thoughts in the chat and everything. So I'm sure you're getting lots of great ideas, like the rest of us, taking lots of fun notes here. So we're going to come back around and start with Michelle again with Guilford County Schools and move to question 3. So what are some considerations for education or community partners as you work together on college and career initiatives? So some considerations as you work together.
Some considerations are for education, you stated, and for community partners as they work together. One of the things, that I will say, I know Devin mentioned, that piece about CTE and counselors not really working together. I will say one thing that we have done here in Guilford County Schools, because we do have, CTE teachers, as well as we actually have CCMs over our CTEs, and that stands for Career and College Managers. So what they do is there's one in each school. So the counselors are actually able to go in and collaborate with them. Right now we have, we're getting ready to start what we call, we've been doing youth science, and youth science is through Shift Ed. So we're working with youth science, and we're going to go in and work with our 10th graders and actually give them a career survey. So that's something that we're working with and collaborating with our CCMs to make sure that we continue to build that partnership. And when we're doing registration, we actually involve our CTE individuals, or our CCMs, I should say, in that registration process, so that they can come in and meet with, help talk with our students during those registration meetings. So I can say that's one thing that we have been really working toward here in Guilford County. But just what I think when you talk about working together, on these college and career programs initiatives, you got to just make sure that you put at the forefront that we are all here to help students reach their post-secondary plans. So if we all continue to put that at our forefront, we're going to be doing amazing work here. Also, you have to think too that you have to be open to everyone's ideas, because everyone's going to come with some suggestions and ideas, and just being creative. So if you're open to suggestions and ideas, you're able to form on one accord. And then also, I think Brandy may have mentioned this early, is just about the fact of being flexible. Again, when you're working with, partners or community partners or stakeholders, whoever it may be that you're working with, you have to be flexible and willing to, if something happens, willing to shift gears and to go assist wherever is needed possible.
Thank you so much. And I think I just summed up some of the stuff you talked about and put it over in the chat. So that was awesome. Okay, so same question over to Brandy. So different considerations. As you as a community partner, as you work together with your institutions or your schools and college and career initiatives?
Yeah, so I think this question was a little challenging for me, but as I thought about it, some of those considerations are really specific to thinking about Shift Ed and how we do our work. So maybe about a year ago, we underwent an organizational name change. And with that name change, our mission also shifted. And so now our mission is boldly accelerating student potential. So I think one of the most important considerations that our organization had a chance to look back and assess as we looked at the community and their needs was just thinking about the fact that not all of our students are thinking about attending 2 or 4-year colleges, right? And ensuring that we are presenting them with all of the options so that we can help them navigate what that process or what that pathway to success looks like for them. And so, as Michelle mentioned, one of the ways that we've tried to do that with our organization is using the middle school space to really help assess and expose students to various careers and different pathways that may or may not involve attending a 2 or 4-year college. And so with that being said, just taking that into consideration as we continue to do our work, I know that it can often be just assumed that Shift Ed is solely for pushing students to 4-year colleges, and that's not the case. So ensuring that we are looking at all of the pathways to success, and also knowing that success is a term that varies depending upon the individual, and it's not always, does not always look one monolithic way.
That is absolutely correct. Thank you so much, Brandy. So same question with the considerations for Molly.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and I'm really going to echo a lot of what Michelle and Brandy have already said. but yeah, I mean, I would just say that really keeping in mind that we all have the same goal here. But sometimes we're all coming to it from like a different angle, which is something I think our advisors have noticed in schools. Like, you know, we train them around this college access stuff and they're recent college graduates, and they're working with all of these different school partners. But realistically, like, you know, they've never done teaching. They've never, you know, had to be in a classroom with 30 kids, like, and make sure people are listening, and they've never been a counselor. So I think a lot of times they just kind of have to remind themselves like that that's a completely different job and these people are coming at it from a different angle, but realistically we're all working on the same goal here. And the other thing I'll say is, you know, we won't know if it works if we don't try it. So when I worked at Mitchell, for example, I just had all these ideas in my head about what kids were going to be excited about based on how I was in high school, and I was wrong like every time. They just really surprised me, and you know, I was always surprised like when they were excited about like, you know, something that in high school I think I would have considered like dorky, like setting up a big, you know, booth and let's take your picture and let's do all these fun things. I just thought that they might write me off and be like, I'm not doing that, you know, whatever. I don't want a pizza party. I don't want all this stuff. But they just surprised me every time that they were so into all these things that I wanted to do with them. And there are a lot of things that I wish I had really gone for and tried because I think that they actually would have really liked them. But I was just, I don't know, like too in my own way, I guess. And I also really liked what Brandy said about, you know, really making those kids that are not going to college feel really valued as well at the same time throughout this whole process. You know, our program also has sort of the stigma that we are only there to like really push 4 year, and we're just not. Like, we train our advisors on also making sure that other kids feel like their next steps are just as important and impressive or whatever as the kids that are, you know, going off to NC State. Like, just because that's not for you doesn't mean that it's not a really good decision. So yeah.
Thank you, Molly. Devin, same question. Considerations when working with community partners in schools.
Yeah, first, I mean, I agree with everybody. I think too often people think when we're talking about college access that we are saying that's the only valid pathway. Instead, we're just saying we want anybody who wants to be able to access that pathway to access that, right? So I get that. Yeah, I think it's so important that we include all the pathways in those conversations. In terms of some other considerations, though, I think one of the biggest things that I've seen, especially as folks come back out of COVID and are trying new things, right, is that it's really important to scale things, right, and scale our expectations. Sometimes I feel like we are, it's a very idealistic profession, right? We believe in people, we want to do big things for these students and these families. But sometimes it's better to start small, right? And kind of go from there rather than to bite off too much and then, you know, feel completely overwhelmed. Not only that, but I've seen some really great programs kind of fall flat the first year, and then that group gives up. And I don't think that that's necessarily the way to go, because sometimes it's a great program that just, it hasn't become part of the culture of that school or that community yet, right? It hasn't become the tradition. And so sometimes the first year of doing something, it's just that building year, right? That year where you're learning those lessons on, okay, well, I still think this is a good idea. I still think this is meaningful, but how do we tweak it for next year to make it a tradition, to make it part of our school's culture?
That's awesome. And I think I kind of heard this from Devin and Molly, you know, sort of, you know, don't be afraid to fail with all these initiatives. You know, there's different things that you try, and if they don't work, then they don't work, and then we try something else. And so it just allows us to keep growing and learning, right? All right, thank you all so much. And just reminding folks, you can put questions in the chat if you have any. And we are going to come over to question 4, and we're going to come back over to Michelle with Guilford County Schools. And question 4, so what are some of the ways that you feature students in the planning process with C2C or other community events, career college events? So how can we feature those students?
So as far as, with the Countdown to College week and just making sure that you feature students, a lot of, the counselors, they do have their own like social media pages, so they can utilize those pages to actually, post students that, have done, like maybe the student has completed the countdown to college during that week, they complete that college application. So if a student completed college application during that week, they could have their little sticker on that says I applied to college, which we utilize those resources from CFNC, and maybe you give them some candy and they take a picture, and it's just to show a way to showcase that they have done something. Also during that week, you're planning events for Countdown to College as well. Have the students provide you with input on what they want to see happen during that week. Maybe there's a special day, a spirit week that you have, and then everybody that day wears a shirt of a school that they want to apply to or want to go to during that respective week. So just really, you have to be creative when it comes to the different planning opportunities. Also, here in Guilford County Schools, we have what we call the Greensboro Apprenticeship Program, where students get paid for on-the-job training. So they're able to get those skills. So say they don't want to attend a 4-year college after they finish, high school, maybe it's a 2-year college, but they actually have that program that does that on-the-job training. And then also here in Guilford County as well, we offer college and career fairs. And so our career fairs start early as middle school. So going back and getting that early awareness so that students are aware of what opportunities are available for them. And then also we have a college fair coming up October the 2nd here at the Greensboro Coliseum. So that's one college fair that will be coming up with over 112 colleges represented.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And so we are going to work through the panel for this question, and we'll address questions that are coming through in the chat. Okay, so we're going to work through this one. So same question for Brandy. How do you help feature students in all of this great work that you're doing?
I love this question because as I'm getting older, I'm realizing the importance of student voice and how far I am becoming removed from the student experience. But some of the ways in which we have been able, again, to leverage some of the partnerships that we have are that we have local college advisors who serve in Guilford County. And so some of them have college ambassadors or have found champions at their school amongst the students who are really high achievers and who are helping change the college going culture. So as Michelle mentioned, even if it's doing something as simple as organizing a college day or getting conversations started about next steps after college, those are some of the ways that we incorporate student voice. And I think it's also important for scholars to see themselves. So one of the things that we do particularly through Shift Ed, we also offer a scholarship for students who have graduated from Guilford County schools. And so oftentimes we have the opportunity, they are often very appreciative of the financial support that they've gotten from our organization. So they often always don't mind coming back and serving on a panel or volunteering at an event. And oftentimes that is really powerful for a student to see, oh, I used to see that student walking down the hallway. They now attend UNC Chapel Hill, or they now attend Harvard. So really thinking about how we can use our alumni to help bring that college experience to students and help also answer questions that they may have that they may not feel comfortable asking myself or Michelle or another community partner.
Thank you. Yeah, the alumni has the near peer, right? So the piece that is all of us go through, we're losing. Okay, so same question for Molly. Featuring students in all of this great work.
Yeah, I also really liked this question, and I think all of our advisors sort of take it in a different direction, which I really like because it's really fun to see what they come up with. But we've had a lot of advisors that have had great luck with like featuring students in their own school. And I think that can be really great because I think that you like the students then see students that are, doing similar things to what they're doing, even if they're not like necessarily friends or something. So we've had some advisors create like really beautiful bulletin boards during college application week or just right after, with like, you know, pictures of all the kids holding up flags about like where they applied to, and like maybe a little blurb about what they're excited about. And, you know, like they've had competitions around, you know, if you apply to this many schools, you get your picture up there every time. So it ends up being like an entire wall or something. But those have been really amazing. And I also really liked what Brandy said about focusing on student voices. And that really made me think that our advisors, especially this year, I think that like now that we're out of the pandemic and we can kind of like bring students together more and do just more fun things. Our advisors have done a great job of really thinking through ways that they can, you know, help students through this process and also just make it a little more fun or just not as stressful. So, you know, we have them, if they want to purchase something through our program, they have to do it a specific way, but we've seen so many just like huge loads of snacks come through and huge loads of like fidget toys, just so when kids are like sitting there doing these applications, you know, they have like, they can relax a little bit, they can focus on something else instead of just like barreling through and doing, you know, 5 applications at one time or something. They, yeah, can just relax a little bit and enjoy each other's company and do it together. So I really liked watching them be able to do some of that.
Yes, that's so good. I love the fidget toys. Devin, same question on over to you, with featuring students and all the great work you're doing.
It's funny, Molly, it reminded, when we were talking, it reminded me when I was in my school counseling internship and I was super excited about like mental health Mondays. And one of the activities I did was I actually had students, I like set up in the lunchroom and had students make stress balls, like using like balloons and flour. It was very messy, but the students enjoyed it. They got kind of a break from, you know, what they were dealing with, and they had a little stress ball. So yeah, I think the value of celebration and adding some fun to the process can be really important, because I know that we all know that students, you know, stress about this stuff, and not only are they stressed about some of this stuff, but they receive all these outside, you know, messages about the importance of, you know, figuring out every piece of their future right now, right? So taking some of that load off, obviously in the conversations that we have with students, but also in like fun, lighthearted activities, I think that can be really, really important. One of the things that I was thinking about, in terms of, you know, including students, I know that some schools actually rely on either, depending on the school, like a student government sort of organization, or actually one school heavily involves their like journalism class, because that journalism class also has like an Instagram account, and you know, they're just so well connected with the students, that they work really hard with them to kind of, you know, build their capacity and like their knowledge of what's going on, and kind of pull from them like, what do you think we should do, you know, that kind of thing. So their collaborations with some of the students in the schools on the planning, and then to just get students really like hyped up in the marketing, can be pretty cool. I've seen some counselors do like Instagram takeovers for students who, you know, apply to a certain number of colleges. They get to pick a song and like do a dance or something on the counseling or the school Instagram, you know, stuff like that. Again, putting a little bit of fun back into the process. And then of course, yeah, the grads is always great, bringing, especially in October, because there's all sorts of fall breaks that happen in October right around that college application week. So it really can be very beneficial to have that, you know, college schedule kind of line up really nicely with some of the college stuff that we do.
Thank you so much. And I'm sending over the chats, just, you know, there's so much that I'm putting in there. Okay, so we have a question for the panel that has come through Q&A. So folks are interested in knowing how you might address like language needs or newcomers who are coming, and then just other special populations as a whole. So again, if we're thinking about language access needs and newcomers, other special pops like, you know, unhoused foster youth, you know, those types of groups. So let's, if it's okay, let's ask Michelle first, and we'll just go through everyone, because I think everyone enjoys this question. Everyone's not So we're going to use this as a full question. So Michelle, any thoughts on how to help reach some of the needs of students with like special population students?
So the biggest thing when you're working with your special population students, it just depends on, which group you're working with. Of course, when you talk about working with your EL students, you have to have, when you're hosting events, you have to have translators involved in that respective program or whatever event that you're hosting. Also, I know a lot of times with us too, we do partner with CFNC. They have Dr. Juanez Ramirez, who is great at, that partnership on the Latino resources. And then also with Brandy, she has a young lady that she sometimes brings in that helps us too when it comes to translating. And then also here in Guilford County Schools, we have our own EL department and we can access translators that way. When you talk about working with your students that are in foster care or, are homeless, we do have our own division here in Guilford County Schools where we have, someone in our own student services department that works with foster children and homeless students. So you can have those individuals come in and speak at different initiatives that you're hosting, and then just making sure that whatever population that you're working with, that you always have someone that is available to speak with that population, and that always, you're getting your individuals out front. So at the college fair night, we're having tables set up, different individuals represented. So that way they can see what other resources are available when they're looking for, help with certain things, whether it's help with finding services when they're homeless or help with, that translation piece. I mean, we even have an, American Indian education program here in Guilford County Schools. It just seems like whatever you need. I think a lot of times people are not asking for the resources, so they're not able to utilize those resources or know what we have to offer.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. So same question over to Brandy with how you can help, special populations with resources.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate this question. I would like to say, this is something that I'm always thinking about. How can we do this better, right? Because I know that we are trying, but I know that we can do better as well. So, but I say that with grace. Some of the ways that Michelle mentioned is leaning on collaboration, understanding that we don't do it all or may not do it all or have the capacity, but doing that education to know who does and to be able to provide, either direct those students to that resource or bring in someone from that community to ensure that there is representation. I also think that it is very important, even when you think about advertising events, to move past just translation, ensuring that you're meeting people in spaces that they are comfortable. And so just ensuring that you have the right team member, even outside of just racial and ethnic representation, just ensuring that you have a diverse group of team members. And I will say that in Guilford County, it is also a challenge because we serve such a diverse group of students. And I'm sure you all have that same diversity in your communities, but we often lean on Guilford County schools for translation and ensuring that we're just aware of all the things that they have to offer, because even if we can't offer it, I know that I can connect them to Michelle and to GCS and to the appropriate resource, even if it's a community resource. So not limiting yourself to the scope of what you do and what you know, but really doing that research to meet students where they are. And translating documents is great, but I would love to take it a step further.
Yes. Yep. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's super important. Thinking about the cultural context of it and all of that, not just translating. So same question over to Molly, working with special pops through so addressing those barriers with the special populations.
Got it. Yeah. I think specifically with our program, because we're mainly there for college access and just helping kids with those next steps, our advisors in a lot of cases do have the capacity to meet with kids multiple times a year. obviously. And so we really encourage them, you know, like maybe let's not jump straight into college. Let's just get to know each other a little bit. What are you into? What do you like to do? And just kind of like building some rapport with those students. And I think it makes it easier when those hard conversations come up then, like maybe this kid is experiencing homelessness or has like some mixed documentation statuses in their family. And so when that stuff comes up, like when we're doing FAFSA or whatever, hopefully that kid feels comfortable enough to bring that to their college advisor and then make the process, you know, not easier, but at least the advisor knows what to expect. And, you know, I think when thinking about college application week specifically, especially for us, you know, we really have encouraged advisors to, you know, if you have a big group of kids come down and you're encouraging them to work through, you know, multiple applications and let's get this done, and you notice a kid that is zoning out or not participating for some reason, don't push that. If there is some reason that they are having trouble and are not wanting to do this kind of stuff, you know, don't push that. Let's have a meeting later in the week or something and figure out what's going on. But, you know, I think in the moment saying like, hey, we need to get through these, but not knowing that that kid is, you know, really unsure about what this process looks like for them because of what's going on at home or whatever, definitely doesn't help the issue. So, yeah. And we also, you know, just tell them, check with your counselors, like really ask, like, you know, I don't need to know the whole scenario because I'm not a counselor, but what kids need to be on my radar maybe for that might need extra support, that maybe during college application week need a separate meeting with me and need to be prioritized a little bit more. So, yeah. And with the Spanish speaking piece or any other language, we do have advisors in our core that thank goodness have been willing to translate documents or hop on a Zoom with another advisor that doesn't speak that language. And we always check with them to make sure beforehand, but we're so limited in our schools. Like some of our schools don't even have a Spanish speaker right now, like in the school at all. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Molly. Same question over to Devin.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question because I mean there's so many different circumstances that and experiences and identities that students and cultures that students bring into this, you know, college career process, right? And it's on us to be as responsive as we can, right? In those moments, there's those moments where you're like, okay, you know, there's something here that maybe this person needs individual support, or maybe there's a group of students that you know, can bring together to help empower, right, those students, because sometimes that group of students can support each other through a difficult process, right? And you know, now that I'm with CFNC, I work more on like this event level, right? This big picture level. But I still have opportunities that I really appreciate to sort of work with some smaller groups that need that. So for instance, I work a lot with Voc Rehab around here. So, you know, those kids oftentimes need a little bit more of those individual conversations, I find. So, you know, I'm going into to talk to a small group of those students, even though, you know, I'm going to do a bigger event, right, also. And they're invited into both of those spaces. So I do think that can be really helpful to kind of have different modes that you're kind of talking to students, because sometimes students don't want to be singled out, like Molly pointed out, like sometimes they don't want that one-to-one. So sometimes it is more appropriate to do a group or like a wider event. Also, I would say to schools, you know, sometimes you can't get buy-in for maybe a separate event for a specific group of students, right? Like with the admin or for whatever reason. So sometimes you can partner with other schools. Like for instance, I know out here in Buncombe County, you know, we have one school with a particularly high Spanish speaking population, and we're opening that event up to the rest of the county, right? So, you know, that makes sense because, you know, some of those other schools may not have the capacity to host, you know, individual events around the county, but, you know, there is a space to bring those students and families into. So I think it's yeah, it's ever evolving. Like Brandy said, we can always do it better. So I would love to hear any ideas in the chat for things that you all are doing, because, you know, we always want to try new things and support our special populations however we can.
Okay, thank you guys so much. We're gonna come over to whoops, missed question here. We're gonna come back over to question number 5, and this is a problem I had on Tuesday with stuff getting cut off. So I'm gonna just escape out of here and do this, and then I'll go back in. So question 5, what partnerships are you excited to work on? So stuff that you maybe have coming up, you have in the works. You know, you're kind of getting there. Maybe it's not done, but you're excited about what's happening. So we'll start with Michelle.
All righty, so I'm excited this year to continue to partnership with CFNC Shift Ed. This year we have added on My Future NC as well as the John M. Belt Endowment. So those are some of the partnerships that I'm looking forward to continue with this year. There is several different things, and Brandy and our team we have coming up. Our first event that we have coming up is on October the 19th. That is called our One-Stop Pop-Up Shop. It's going to be in High Point at the High Point Library, in the Morgan Community Room. We are excited about that particular event that is coming up, and we're going to be there helping students complete their FSAID and their RDS. And of course, you know, that's during college application week. So we are also willing to help them with those last minute college applications that they need to complete as well. It is from 6 to 7:30 p.m. that day. Food will be served, and they would just need to go onto the Shift Ed website to register for the event. Also, in the month of February, we will also be doing like a fast food fair, where we'll have like bouncy houses and different things just to kind of kick off and get everyone excited about fast food in general, since it is opening up sometime in December. But we want to go ahead and make sure that families are excited and they know that they have that opportunity to come out, have fun, but also complete that fast food. And then we also, Tequila, I know she's super excited about this, is our HBCU fair that we have, and that'll be in the month, I believe, of March, where we will have an HBCU fair. Hopefully we're going to try to get some people to do some on-site admissions that day for our students. But those are just 3 of the events that we have scheduled, to kind of, get families and individuals excited about post-secondary plans.
That is so fun. Thank you so much. I think we love some of those ideas, and we're putting them again in the chat. So folks, if you're not catching them, they're in there. So same question for Brandy. What are some things coming up that you're excited about that you are planning?
Yeah, so Michelle went through the whole shindig of our collaborative events, but I would also encourage you all to take a look at Shift Ed on our site just for any of the upcoming things we have, because they are free and open to the public, and many of them are virtual, so you can utilize them all across the state. We generally do SAT, ACT prep twice a year, so that'll occur again in February. But I am excited to continue to expand the partnerships and collaborations that we already have. I have worked with Tequila and CFNC and Guilford County Schools and Michelle and everyone for years, but it is even more exciting to continue to see other organizations, again, with similar missions, understanding that we're better together, I guess, pun intended. So bringing Gear Up to the table, My Future NC, ensuring that we're just having more voices, not only in Guilford County, but across the state, because we are all experiencing similar but also unique challenges. So I think that is what we're excited for, and also excited to just not to continue to do things the way we've always done them, because that's how we've always done them, but to come up with new innovative ideas and creative ideas to think about and to reach students and their parents.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And since, past COVID, I think that just because we do something because we've always done it, that just got amplified with COVID, because nothing is the same anymore. So like you're saying, just the more organizations coming together and the flexibility and all that is necessary now more than ever possibly in our lifetimes. So same question over to Molly. What you got coming up that you're excited about?
Yeah, I think it's been really exciting this year to see. This was the first year that we incorporated into our summer training, asking advisors to, before they went into their communities, get online and take a look at all of the local nonprofits that are operating in your town or your county, and think about ways that you could partner with those nonprofits to help get more kids into post-secondary education. I think there's a lot of overlap that we don't even think about sometimes. Like there's a nonprofit, for example, in Mitchell County. It's called Tractor, and they specifically, their goal is to work with farmers in this local community and to help get that produce into the hands of local people. But we've been talking with that organization about, like, they want to start doing community fairs where, they offer local produce. You can use your SNAP benefits to get it, but maybe at that same time, there's also a booth set up, like, getting people signed up for like medical care that they need. And then we've also talked about incorporating college access. So if you have a kid in the school system, like, what questions do you have about this process from us? And even if you're a parent, like, what questions do you have about like going back to school, to get like a certification in something? So we've just really tried to be really intentional this year about having advisors think outside of the box on like how all these people in this community can work together to just make the community stronger and healthier. And I think that, really can look however we want it to look, and we can get as creative as we want to get. So I think it's going to be really great.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Molly. I didn't realize that advisors went online and looked for local organizations before the summer meeting, and that's so good. We spend with CFNC, we spend a lot of time, looking at community organizations and just reaching out to set up a meeting. And you would be surprised the folks that you don't think is going to make sense for you to work together. Once you start talking, there is always at least one thing that it's like, oh, you guys have that. Well, I think we can mesh this together.
Exactly.
So it's constant. You just gotta set up a meeting and go up and talk to folks. Even at CFNC, when we vend, so when we have tables set up at conferences and such, we'll go around and talk to some of the different people that are there, because even though it might not seem to fit at all, it can. It definitely can. So same question for Devin. What do you have coming up with the partnerships and community involvement and all that you're excited about?
Yeah, I was really glad that Molly mentioned sort of some of those community partners, because that's what I've got a lot going on with right now. I'm pretty excited about a lot of the partnerships, again, that have opened up since the world has opened up a little bit more. And working with like the United Way, right? They have all those communities and schools. And one thing that I love about that is that their communities and schools in our area are mostly in the middle schools, right? So you're getting the students and you're getting their parents who are coming for that great meal. Sometimes that Manna shows up and they bring food, and like, it's just such a great place to support. Of course, we, like, in education, there's that old saying, right? You got to Maslow before you can bloom, right? You got to deal with those basic needs, but also give folks hope for their futures, right? So there's a lot of things you can do with some of these community partnerships. I'm really excited about. In particular, I'm working right now in one of my counties there's a bunch of smaller groups supporting students in like after school programming. And they've all kind of got similar goals, and they all want to support their students. So we're actually working on a collaborative college and career series where everybody comes to the Y, and like we just have everybody kind of join together for these specific events, so that we can come, marshal resources, right? And so that's kind of an exciting thing happening for me in this area. And some of that is not me reaching out. Some of that's folks who heard about me and were like, you know what, we're going to do this, which has been really wonderful to be kind of invited into those spaces like that. And then one thing I'm working on that, well, this will probably be news to them because I actually have not connected with them, but this is like one of those future goals, right? Is in our area, we have a lot of families who work with Pisgah Legal in this area around issues of immigration and taxes. And that just seems like a really great partnership around financial aid and FAFSA. So if there's anybody here on Pisgah Legal, sorry, I'm just like jumping the gun, but I'm like super excited about partnering with organizations like that, because they are trusted people helping in communities that we know have a lot of barriers, right, into getting into education. So, I'm trying to do more purposeful outreach to organizations like that haven't necessarily been in the education space or even the children's space, but could really contribute something very meaningful to our students and families.
That's awesome. And with the Pisgah Legal, and this is something someone said earlier about not biting off more than we can chew and starting small. That could be something as simple as, you reach out and we have a meeting, and maybe, starting small because of everyone's time constraints is maybe Pisgah Legal works with Devon or other local partnerships to have a parent night, maybe in a library or at the legal firm, and they provide pizza or something, and you're there in a presentation, talk through some stuff, or maybe you partner with one or whatever. So, it feels like sometimes I think it can feel like there's all of these things, and how can you do all this? Well, a collaboration with something like Pisgah Legal doesn't necessarily have to take up every day because we don't have the time for that. But it's building small and starting with biting off what you can chew, and then you have that partnership, right? You're developing those relationships, which is obviously key to every single thing that we do. Developing relationships is probably the number one thing we talk about with outreach with CFNC is the need to create those relationships. So we've got to just reach out and have those little meetings. And sometimes they go really, really well, and you have so many ideas and everyone's excited. And sometimes it kind of flops, but you do what you can do when you have conversations about how you want to help move communities forward. And it can be something as small as having a program once a year, offering something twice a year. And it's just a continual thing that you keep building on. Now you've got this new resource with Pisgah Legal. Okay, it's just an example. So yeah, we can totally start slow, and those relationships are just absolutely vital for all of us. We do not need to be experts. All of you on do not need to be experts in every single thing, but it is so helpful to say, I have no idea, but I know who to call about that, and I'll connect you because I am not your person. And being able to do that is just so wonderful. So I just want to take a minute and ask our panelists if anyone had anything else that they wanted to mention, that just haven't been talked about or that popped up you were thinking of. Just start with Michelle and Randy. Either of you have anything you wanted to pop in and add as we close up soon? And it's fine if you don't. No pressure.
I don't have anything else that I would like to add. Just, the biggest thing is just that communication and that collaboration. So to continue that, and as long as you, continue that, I think that is what's going to be the driving force to help make sure that we reach those numbers that I know we're looking for, as far as making sure that every individual has some type of post-secondary plan. So continue with communication and collaboration.
Yes, thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here. Brandy, anything that you wanted to or you thought of as we worked through this afternoon?
No, I think you hit on it a little bit, April, but the importance of not only like building the relationships, but continuing to foster those relationships, just like in a relationship that you may have personally outside of work. You have to continue to water it. It's like a flower. And I'm a bad plant mom, but I'm great at continuing to water relationships. And then secondly, I just wanted to thank everyone on this call for how they serve in whatever capacity they serve, and just for taking the time to learn more just about how to better serve your students, but just taking the time to be here today. And that's all.
Thank you, Brandy. And it's fine. I have my children are thriving and I kill all the plants. So also goldfish. They come to my house. So it's okay. We can be really good in some areas. Same thing we tell the students, right? So Molly, was there anything else you wanted to add this afternoon?
I don't think so. I just appreciate being asked to be here. I really enjoyed it.
No, we appreciate all the information that you guys have added and so many different thoughts and notes. And I think we possibly could maybe add some of the notes. We could probably throw something in a document maybe next week for those of you on for all the great ideas we heard so that you have it in there. Devin, anything else you wanted to add this afternoon?
So since we've been talking about, sort of that community partnership thing, I did want to mention, particularly for some of you small communities, right? I think in some ways it can be really tough when you have like a small school and a small community to do big things, but in some ways it can be a real asset, right? Because some of those communities tend to be super interconnected, and so using that can to the advantage of all the students and the whole community can be amazing. There's a very small county out here that they have a senior awards night, and I swear to you, every senior gets an award. And the local businesses sponsor those awards. So a lot of them. And so the whole community comes to that school for that night to celebrate those students. And it just was so incredibly impactful. And we are not talking about a school with like a super high college going rate, but it was just super, it was so impactful for me just being a part of that evening to see how much that community was connected and how those local businesses were involved, and the students and the staff and everybody was there cheering these students on. No matter what path they were going on, they got some kind of recognition. And I think the kinds of things can be really incredible, particularly in those small communities where it's kind of manageable to do something like that.
Thank you so much. I am sending this over the recognition. That's all spelled right. That's so fun, and it's easier to do in smaller communities, but just the local businesses getting involved. That's another way, right? With the local, just creating that within the community. So thank you for that so much. And as we kind of get ready to close out, I did just want to remind everyone that we've spent a lot of time talking about like cultivating these relationships and how important it is, to communicate and reach out and have conversations, and we have the same goals, and how can we help each other and share resources. And just kind of, we've also been touching on the idea of continue to foster those relationships, because it's definitely not a one and done when you meet folks. Every time we do programs like this, with all these fabulous people that we have on the panel, it's just so wonderful. And we have these folks on the panel because some other folks, regional reps, other folks have developed and fostered relationships with these wonderful people on the panel. And so it's just, we can continuously learn from each other. And that's how we can keep fostering this and just keep going. And we all can keep each other in our back pockets, right? To say, as I said before, I do not that, but I listened one time to a program and I heard Michelle Sims talk from Guilford County Schools, and they have that going on there. It seems to be going good. Why don't you reach out to Michelle and see how that happened over there? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. If Michelle's got something great going on, Molly has something different great going on, Brandy's different, Devin's different. We can all, I think to partner together and share ideas, because hopefully whoever we're sharing ideas with will give us some ideas too, and we can all, kind of get a piece of the puzzle. Okay, so I believe we have touched on the chat as we have gone through. So that's there, and we really appreciate that. And just a reminder of who we have on this program today and who's still here. Big shout out and thank you to Michelle Sims and Brandon Kennedy, Molly O'Donnell and Devin McCarthy James for joining us, and all of the other CFNC regional reps and Spanish service folks that have been in the chat and listening in and adding comments. So we just truly appreciate everyone taking time out this afternoon to talk about this. It's just such a great topic, you know, for us to just share and brainstorm, right? So we can continue to develop these relationships and cultivate them into the future. So again, thank you all for joining programs this month. This program right here is going to wrap up our 2023 Education Professionals Month as part of college Countdown to College. We have all October long. So we've had a lot of diverse programs. A lot of you have been on all of them this month, and we truly appreciate it. And at this point, we are I'm gonna stop recording in just a minute, and you guys are welcome to mute. I know sometimes folks would rather ask a question verbally, but I'll stop the recording. Otherwise, we are onward to October at this point to push through and celebrate and have fun with Countdown to College. Thank you all so much. We've enjoyed your time and the month. Good luck in October.